While the police own family stealing from me. Mama told me to pray, but white Jesus can't save me. Get him away from me. I don't know what to say. So many niggas hating me. Get him away from me.
Always up on my own. Don't need you all in my zone. Spend so much time alone while I'm riding strap on my chrome. Always up on my own. Don't need you all in my zone. Spend so much time alone while I'm riding strap on my chrome.
Always up on my own. Don't need you all in my zone. Spend so much time alone while I'm riding around with my chrome. Always up on my own. Don't need you all in my zone. Spend so much time alone while I'm riding around with my chrome. Tryna keep it on the true side, nigga. Laying low to play it cool, nah, nigga. Ass niggas on the team, I've been known to get the green ever since I was 2-5, nigga. Coop hanging out the roof, nah, nigga. Cause I ain't stunting on them. Put my whole team on so they ain't wantin'. When niggas doing bad, you know that they be hating on you. Get the hoping that you fall, they be waiting on it. Bullshit, get bread from the envy. Best friends get to looking like enemies. When you got it in this bank account empty. Perfect recipe to brittle out of jealousy. Looking from a bird's eye view. Learn from everything I've been through. Told my baby girl, if you ain't spending life with the nigga, never let him put a dick up in you. Cause if a nigga wrong, I'ma check that shit. And when you paper long, never flex that shit. Told my son, when you getting money, never trick it to a baba, flip it over, then invest that shit. Give a lot of game, trying to bless my kid. Gotta keep it real, that's the best shit. Got hitters up in Philly, back in Texas. When I get up on the track, yeah, I wreck shit.
Always up on my own. Don't need you all in my zone. Spend so much time alone while I'm riding strap on my chrome. Always up on my own. Don't need you all in my zone. Spend so much time alone while I'm riding strap on my chrome.
Always up on my own. Don't need you all in my zone. Spend so much time alone while I'm riding around with my chrome. Always up on my own. Don't need you all in my zone. Spend so much time alone while I'm riding around with my chrome.
Hey, I'm just following orders. Let me get one of those slow motion pictures, bro. One of the slow motion pictures.
You gotta shoot at 60 frames per second.
Come on,
They say they wanna hear that raw shit. These niggas claiming that they bullshit. These niggas better move and coach shit. Cause if they make the wrong move and coach shit. You see me, they like, ooh, keep on shopping. I'm on my way up and they ain't gon' stop it. They say they wanna hear that raw shit. Coming up, I'm about to vote. They see me, they like, ooh, keep on shopping. I'm on my body, real niggas right beside me. Damn right, I brought my army. Going up like a rocket, and can't nobody stop me. These niggas garbage, so watch your mouth, boy. Coming all black, slithering house, call me mouth, boy. I'm off the hip like a cowboy. I'm a king, you should bow, boy. Shorty like, damn, man, you cut up. There's nothing I can handle. 144 in the booth, going Rambo. Niggas do you dirty like a stick in a bando. That's why I play the corner like a bum with a banjo. I'ma lead by example. Ooh, keep on sobbing, got this bitch off the hand. Got the juice, got the drip, about to hit the bitch with the salt. It ain't rap, it's assault. Can't taste a bitch unless you with the coke. They say they wanna hear that raw shit. These niggas claiming that they bullshit. These niggas better move and coach shit. Cause if they make the wrong move and coach shit. One way, one way, one way, one way, one way. Coming up on my I do it how a veteran be. You better than me. I'm Reggie at the edge of the key. It's all money, no honey. Think you settle and see. You locked up, fucked up, and it's back to the streets. It's one West. You can check the residency. I reside with soldiers.
like a legend in this shit. Lil nigga, I'm past veteran. Never feeling third, lil nigga, I'm past second. Guns, I gotta have them all like Ash Ketchum. Shotty break a nigga ribs up like his wife left him. We all steppin', kill you with kindness cause I'm dead nice. That 5'7" put you 6 feet, not talking height. That judge giving out 5, but you doing life. These hands are rude GPS, a mean right. That's mean right, we build different, you know the vibes. And we something authentic, we notarized. I keep a 144 because I know a cod. Noah's Ark, you know I'm with animals when we flowing by. We back again, no cap, when I'm with Cap again. Yeah, they say they want smoke until we matching them. Everything righteous, so you know when we get back at them, you get hit up with a K, but no acronym.
They say they wanna hit that raw shit. These niggas claiming that they boss shit. These niggas better move and coach shit. Cause if they make the wrong move and coach shit. You see me, they like, ooh, keep on stopping. I'm on my way up and they ain't gon' stop it. They say they wanna hit that raw shit. I'm on my way. Coming up, I'm about to boss shit.
Westworld, let's get it. Don't be sure, tell them make sure. If not, we gon' make war. Clips say it hold 20, but I think it could take more. Grab a stick, fire on your camp, we gon' make s'mores. I ain't satisfied with my spot, then I'ma take yours. No matter how many roadblocks in my way, I'ma break forward. This path I'm on is so damn narrow, I just stay forward. Put them on my plate, I'm never full, I just ate more. Put them on my plate, I'm never full, give me 8 more. Nigga, I don't sugarcoat shit, bitch, I'm straightforward. Don't give a fuck if they don't let me in, I just break doors. Ballin' so hard, they asking what team that I play for. Scammer who? They ain't stopped making guns when they made yours. Sick with it, feeling like I woke up with stage 4. They ain't want the peace loose, what they opened up the cage for. Endure the pain, been through hard times is what I'm made for. Pay my dues, never left a wage, I just rage war. So many chains and gold teeth, it's the blood of a slave. Sit on a throne with a gold crown from the blood of a slave. This is our world, got it from the mud to the grave. Become a thing in the past, don't be a story in my page.
Stood against all enemies. In high school, you was the man that's lost memory shit. Lost energy, never lost my energy. Never lose control, never losing, dog, I plan to keep. You lose your mind where I'm from, I ain't talking from what you see. I never lost soul, losing times, wasting steady pacing. You off track, I'm on that. You pray to God, hoping he can save you. But there's power about war, and that's a different angle. This another lost cause, and I'm just adding to the list. They not seeing me for that reason, got a flash on the grip. Nigga, big priest, they gon' judge me by my increase. And I'ma keep stepping in these joys to the increase. Just got off the phone with Jacob, and he said it's time to shine. Certified, blue dot, put it on you, now you verified. One West world, bigger than World War III. Do not sleep, it's not cheap, and it's still top 3.
So many chains and gold teeth, it's the blood of a slave. Sit on a throne with a gold crown from the blood of a slave. This is our world, got it from the mud to the grave. Become a thing in the past, don't be a story in my page.
Came on boats and then chains, so when I get rich, I'ma grab a boat and 10 chains with 12 ribs from each tribe. And each rib gonna have at least 3 kids. Yeah, I'ma have a deep squad. Been rapping since knee high, now a nigga shack size. Spit that holy fire, when you hear it, you get baptized. One Westworld, yeah, you niggas know the logo. And I'ma bust it down so the haters see the glow glow. Let's have a feast, let's shine on our enemies. Right in they face, let's blind all our enemies. Cause now we half, but we come from half knots. Throw that cash on the ground, my nigga, let's cast lots. I started from the bottom, birthed out of mud. Raised by gangsters, turned out a thug. I ain't give a fuck, burnt out I was. From hitting licks in and out and selling nicks in the drop.
So many chains and gold teeth, it's the blood of a slave. Sit on a throne with a gold crown from the blood of a slave. This is our world, got it from the mud to the grave. Become a thing in the past, don't be a story in my page.
Yeah, you know what it is. It is a ISUPK. That's the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, out of Harlem, New York, since 1969 under Commanding General Yohana. And we've been called to teach the so-called Black, so-called Hispanic, and so-called Native American people that we are the lost sheep of the house of Israel. All right, tonight's class is about the Pharisees and the Christians, the Pharisees and the church. How are the Pharisees and Christians identical? They are like identical twins. Christians are the Pharisees and the scribes, and we're going to prove it. We're going to prove it based on the spirit of the Christian church and the spirit of the Pharisees and the scribes. Like, what was the Pharisees' belief? What was the scribes' belief? I mean, Salakia, the Sadducees' belief, right? But when we're talking about the Pharisees and the scribes and how they are compared to the Christian church, that's what we're going to examine. We're going to examine that tonight. So get your pen, your pad, your precept book, because we have been sent since 1969 under Commanding General Yohana to teach the Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American people that not only is God Black, not only is Christ Black, but this is a Black nation, and we're preparing to be priests and kings and rulers of this earth. Christians are so tricky with their belief system. They so naive with their understanding, and they are the most dangerous people on the planet. Yeah, that's right. Christians are the most dangerous people on the planet. Now, why would I say that? Why would I say Christians are the most dangerous people on the planet? Who are the people that came and colonized this land? They were called Christians. They was called believers. They were called Catholics. They was called all of the denominations that you hear and see today. That's who they were. So what we're going to do is we're going to examine the Pharisees. We're going to look at the scriptures, and we're going to take a look at what they believed. What did they believe that Paul was teaching? Did they believe that Paul was teaching the law? Well, Pharisees didn't believe that Paul was teaching the law. No, they didn't. And the Jews, the priests. And guess who else don't believe that Paul was teaching the law? Christians. You talk to any Christian today, a Christian to tell you that Paul wasn't teaching the law. Paul was teaching this new law in Christ, this new gospel, this new belief system on the earth that was sent here and brought here by the one that we call the devil that the Bible speaks of. And that's Esau. That's the so-called white man, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to get into the scriptures, right? Let me pull this up. Y'all know what it is. I'm going to the spirit of the Pharisees today, right? That's what we're going to get into, right? So let's go. First we're going to examine first thing that we need to know is what the Pharisees believe. If you can go to Matthew chapter 23. Let's see the position of, that's what I want to see, Slakia. The position of the Pharisees. What is their role back then? What was their role? What position did they play? This is the position that they played right here. You got that up?
And that was Matthew 23, verse 1.
Matthew chapter 23 and verse 1. Read.
Kind of a moment, sir.
God. You guys got to understand. Right now, what Christians are trying to say is that the ISUPK, we're the Pharisees. That's what they're trying to say. They're saying that we're the Pharisees and they are the ones that's preaching that truth. But we're going to see, because here in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, we know that Paul was teaching the law. We know exactly what Paul was teaching. And Paul was teaching the law, and we're going to prove it and we're going to show it. Here's the position of the Pharisees when Messiah was here. Read.
The book of Matthew, chapter 23, verse 1.
Read.
Then spake Yahushua to the multitude and to his disciples.
Notice he says to the multitude and his disciples, right? His disciples are the ones that follow Yahushua, which is ignorantly known to the world as Jesus Christ, right? So Yahushua spoke to the multitude that was there, and he spoke to his disciples. Read.
And to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat.
They do what?
Sit in Moses' seat.
So what is Moses' seat? What was Moses' seat? Moses was a Levite. He would have been a Haitian today, right? So Moses was a judge. He is the one that he was, they operated out of the priesthood. They were operating out of the Levitical priesthood. All right. So Moses was a Levite. Aaron was a Levite. And they did what?
Sit in Moses' seat.
They sit in Moses' seat, judging. So what you have to do is, that's how you got to navigate through the scriptures. When you navigate in what's going on, you have to navigate with that understanding when you're dealing with the Pharisees, right? Verse 3.
Verse 3. All therefore whatsoever they bid you, observe.
So what they tell you, observe. Read.
That observe and do.
And do it. Observe it and do it. Read.
But do not ye after their works.
But don't do after their works. Meaning they were saying good things with their tongue. They were saying good things with their mouth, but their action was completely separate. Who that sound like today? That's not the Christian church. The Christian church are the number one. They are the number one abortionees on the planet. I brought that out a couple classes ago. 7 out of 10 women that get abortions are Christians. So that means that 7 out of 10 women that go get abortions, they are murderers. These are Christians. Christians are quick. I'll give you an example. I was speaking to a Christian, and I was going back and forth with the Christian about the belief and their belief and my belief. All right. The Christian told me, I'm going to serve my God. I'm going to serve the God of my fathers. I'm going to serve the father of my grandparents. I'm going to serve the God of my family. Let me explain to you about the God of that family, because I know that family particularly well. The sister is a homosexual. So if the sister is a homosexual and the sister serves that same God, that's the God you're talking about? Your father jumps from woman to woman, but he has a form of righteousness because he do it monogamous. Like, meaning he's only banging one woman at a time. And once he's done with her, and once she's done with him, they move right along. That's what they do. That's the Christian church. The Christian churches say, be in the world, but not of the world, but yet they'll celebrate Christmas. They'll celebrate Halloween. They'll celebrate their birthdays. They'll celebrate all the things that the Most High clearly tell us not to do. He clearly tells us not to do the things of the world. He clearly tells us this, right? So one of the things I want to say this, why are the other nations here? That's a big question. A lot of people ask that question. Well, why is all the other nations around? Let me show you why the other nations are here. Give me that in Judges chapter 3. Let me make sure that's correct. I'm shooting from the hip. It's a hip night tonight. Judges 3. So if anybody ever asks you, well, why is the other nations here? This is why. It's not for us to serve. It's not for us to do the things that they do. It's not that at all. The other nations are here to serve us. But right now, we're being tested by the Most High. We're not being tempted. We're being tested. You got it up? Read.
The book of Judges, chapter 3, verse 1.
Come on.
Now these are the nations which the Lord left to prove Israel by them.
That word prove means to test Israel. So it says, now these nations which Yahweh left to test Israel by them. Read.
Even as many of Israel as had not known all the wars of Canaan.
So This is the reason why the other nations was left. Jump down to verse 4.
Verse 4. And they were to prove Israel by them, to know whether they would hearken unto the commandments of the Lord.
So now the scriptures is clearly saying that the Most High left those nations to test us, to see if we would listen to them or listen to him. And that's where the traditions come in at. That's where the traditions come in at. That's where the Pharisees play a major role with that. They play a major role with that. And guess what? We about to take a look at it, right? So the next precept I'm gonna pull out is Luke chapter 1. We're gonna define the very essence of the Pharisees. We're gonna describe the very essence of the Christian church. I'm gonna give you a word in the scriptures to define the Pharisees, and this same word is applied to Christians. It's the same thing. We had Luke 12:1. It's the same word that you can apply to Christians. If I get up here and I tell you not to smoke weed, and then I'm going and smoking weed, that makes me just like the Christian church. If I get up here and I tell you anything in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, we are men of our word. What we say, that's what we mean, and that's what we stand on. And that's why it's important that brothers get in here to understand that this is where you are built up. But this is a word that clearly defines the Christian church all day. Read out.
The book of Luke, chapter 12, verse 1.
Read.
In the meantime, when there were gathered together an innumerable multitude of people.
So it was a lot of people. Read.
And so much that they trode one upon another.
Come on.
He began to say unto his disciples, first of all, beware ye of the leaven of the Pharisees.
Beware what?
The leaven of the Pharisees.
Now, what is leaven? Leaven is like yeast. It rises. This is why Christians can walk around with so much anger that anger turns into malice towards you. Look, Black Christians, Jakes, they hate us more than the so-called white man. They hate the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge more than Isupk. Slocky, was it? It could be. They hate us more. And that yeast, it rises. It rises. It rises. Then it turns into malice. Then it turns into envy. Then it turns into strife. The Christian church is the number one breakup of families. They'll break the family up in a heartbeat. They will not follow the laws at all. They don't believe in following the laws, the statutes, and the commandments. They believe in following the things that the Pharisees challenged Yahweh Shai with. And we're going to examine that, right? Read. Read it again from the top.
In the meantime, when there were gathered together an innumerable multitude of people, insomuch that they trode one upon another.
Come on.
He began to say unto his disciples, first of all, beware ye of the leaven of the Pharisees.
Come on.
Which is hypocrisy.
What is it?
Which is hypocrisy.
Which is hypocrisy. That's what it is. So the Pharisees is hypocrisy. The Christian church is hypocrisy. Well, what is hypocrisy? Can you read that definition up? It's right there. Look. Oh, you got kicked out.
Hypocrisy, a noun, the practice of claiming to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform.
So they believe one thing, but their behavior is something totally different. That's not the Christian church. When I used to go to the Christian church, right? I used to be in the Christian church with my family, especially the sisters in my family. Oh, they would, the spirit would come down on them and they'll get filled with this spirit, and it'll be so much. Oh, Salaki, it'll be so much that they begin to speak, as they say, in a heavenly language. Oh, they are the most holiest people I've ever seen. The Christian church, the Christians, they are inside the building, incredibly spiritual. But the moment they leave up out of there, I remember when we was in the Christian church, right? We used to go to the 8 o'clock service and the 11 o'clock service, right? We go to the 8 o'clock service, and then I was zealous. I was zealous of the law. So I would go to both services. You know what we would do in the midst of the first service going to the second service? We would go and have lunch. And you know what we would do at lunch? We'll eat swan. We'll eat everything that's unlawful. Everything that's unlawful, that's what we'll eat. The Christian church is the most disgusting people on the planet. When Captain Tazariak said that being a Christian is worse than a crackhead, is true. Because a crackhead knows that he has a problem. A crackhead knows that he or she has an issue. But the Christian church don't. They stand on it. They stand on that leaven. They stand on that hypocrisy. And they die for that hypocrisy. They are the most disgusting people. We're going to go to Mark chapter 7 and verse 1. We're going to take a look at the hypocrisy of the Pharisees. And we're going to match it up with the Christian church today. This very precept that we're pulling in Mark chapter 7 and verse 1, Christians use it right now. They use it today. Such hypocrisy. Such hypocrisy. You got that up? Let's get it.
The book of Mark, chapter 7, verse 1.
Read.
Then came together unto him the Pharisees.
So now the Pharisees came to our king. Came to our king, which is a black man that would look like me, that would stand like me. A black man that would look like you, that would stand like you, black man. So the Pharisees came to Yahushua. Read.
And certain of the scribes which came from Jerusalem. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, Salaki, I'm going to reread that. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, that is to say, with unwashed hands.
So listen, this is vital right there. It's vital because it's giving you context. It's giving you context on what he's talking about. That's what he's doing. It's giving. Read it again so we can understand the context of what we're reading. Read one more time.
The book of Mark, chapter 7, verse 1.
Come on.
Then came together unto him the Pharisees, and certain of the scribes which came from Jerusalem.
Come on.
And when they saw some of the disciples eat bread with defiled, that is to say, with unwashed hands.
With unwashed hands. This is what the Pharisees, the scribes, this is what they're saying. They're saying the disciples, which is the followers of our king, eat without washing their hands. That's what this is about. Read.
They found fault.
They found what?
They found fault.
Now they found fault. Now the question is there a law that states that you have to wash your hands before you eat? Absolutely not. There's no law that states that. There's no law that states that you have to wash your hands before you eat. If we out in the field and I'm hungry and I gotta eat, I'm not looking for somewhere to wash my hands. I'm a get that animal, I'm gonna slaughter that animal, I'm gonna cook that animal, and I'm gonna eat that animal. I'm not gonna be running around trying to find a river to wash my hands. There's no law that states that you have to wash your hands before you eat. Look, there's no law that states that when you come in the room, you got to take your hat off. There's no law for that. Now, there is a law that says a man cannot pray or prophesy with his head covered. But when I walk in a room, I don't got to take my hat off. I can keep my hat on. But if I pray or prophesy, then I got to take my hat off. So this is about washing your hands. Read.
For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands oft, eat not.
So the Pharisees and the Jews, the Pharisees and the people, before they eat, they do what? What they do? What they do? Give them the mic. What? Give them the mic. What they do?
Wash their hands.
They wash their hands. So what this is about is what? Give them the mic again. What is it? No, this chapter is about this. The objective
was washing hands.
Washing your hands. How old is he? How old is he?
5.
So he's 5 years old. And he knows that this verse, this precept, this is talking about what?
Wash hands.
Washing your hands. That's what it's about. This is about washing your hands. And the Jews and the Pharisees, they didn't eat unless they washed their hands. Right? Read.
For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands oft, eat not, holding the traditions of the elders.
Holding the commandments of God.
Traditions.
Holding the law of God.
Traditions.
The tradition is not a law. Tradition is not a law. That's the tradition of man. That's like when I come in a room and they ask me, hey, can you remove your hat? It's a tradition here. It's a tradition of man. It's not a commandment. All right? So this verse is about washing your hands. The Jews did not eat without washing their hands. And now they're coming at Yahushua and his disciples about what? Give them the mic again.
Wash your hands.
I got to get the 5-year-old in it because Christians, they swear that they so wise. They swear that they so smart. But here's a 5-year-old letting you know that this is about what? One more time.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. That's what this is about. Verse 4.
Verse 4. And when they come from the market, except they wash, they eat not. And many other things there be, which they have received to hold as the washing of cups and pots, brassen vessels, and of tables. All
right. So now he's showing you how it merged right in, right? Merged right in with washing of your utensils, right? Verse 5.
Verse 5. Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him.
So now the Pharisees and scribes, the hypocrites, the Christian hypocrisies, the liars, the hypocrites, the murderers, the family destroyers. Christians destroy more families on the planet by the tradition of men than anybody on this planet. I'm coming right at you because I'm sick of y'all. I am sick of y'all. Y'all are on my radar. The Christian church is just disgusting to me. Look, you know something? I'm around a lot of people that be Christians, right? And they get offended when I say stuff like this. I'll say, oh, must be a Christian. When someone just did something foul in the street or just said something that they don't have no business saying or doing something they don't have no business doing. And me and the Christian, we agree that the person that's doing it shouldn't be doing it or saying or whatever the case may be. And then I'll say a Christian and then they'll get offended. Why do you got to say that? Because that's the common denominator here. The thing that everybody that has in common that I'm seeing around that's doing all this foul and disgusting things on the planet are Christians. It's Christians. So because they're Christians, I shouldn't say it because you get offended when I say it. They are the most foul and disgusting people on the earth. Come on out.
Verse 5.
Come on.
Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him, why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders?
Of the tradition. See, here we go again. I haven't heard, did they say anything about the law yet? I haven't heard them say anything about no law. Listen, this is why it's important to slow down when you're reading the Bible too. I notice when I talk to a lot of Christians, they read real fast. Look, I don't care if you can read. I don't care if you can read fast out loud. You have to slow down, because if you slow down, you'll be able to get context. He says, they walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with what?
Unwashed hands.
What this is about, young man?
Washing hands.
Wash hands. This is about unwashed hands. I mean, listen, he's 5. Go to your Christian family member and ask them to read this and ask them what this is about. They're going to tell you something completely different. Completely different. But this is about the Pharisees, the Jews are challenging Yahushua based on what his disciples was doing, eating their food without washing their hands. Verse 6.
Verse 6. He answered and said unto them, well hath Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites.
So he's saying Elijah prophesied about you damn hypocrites. And you get mad when I say it. Well, here's Yahushua saying it. You hypocrites. Read.
As it is written.
As it is what?
As it is written.
As it is written means now this was written in the law. This was written in the Holy Scriptures. This is how a man should talk when he's speaking to a man about dealing with something lawfully. He should say, as it is written. Read.
This people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me.
Man, listen, that's the number one. That's the number one thing of the Christian church. They can say some great things. They can say some wonderful things. What's that precept in Daniel? It might be Dan Salaki. Let me pull that Daniel. Look at Daniel 7:25. Daniel 7. This is a hip shot. Daniel 7:25. That's it. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25. Pull that out.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 25.
Read.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High.
That's what the Christian church do. They can speak some great words, can't they? They can speak some great words. They can say some words. You'd be like, whoa, okay, all right. But then right out of the same mouth, this is what they'll do. Read.
And shall, Salaki, maybe it's.
You're right. Go ahead.
And shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
That's exactly what they'll do. They'll wear out the saints of the Most High. Read.
And think to change times and laws.
Make you think that what? Make you think that what change?
Times and laws.
Times and laws. That's where the Christian church at. They'll come with a tradition, and that tradition based on that time period, and their tradition, which is their law, and they'll make it a law. That's why it says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. Read.
And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
So I wanted to get out that precept that make you think that times and laws has changed. You hear that a lot with the Christian church. They'll say it in a heartbeat. They'll say it in a heartbeat. They'll say, well, times is different now. Times has changed now. We no longer under the law. We don't have to follow the law anymore. That's what they'll say. And I bear witness that they do have a zeal for God. They have a zeal for the Most High. Where's that precept at? Hip shot. You know where's that?
I'll find it.
Romans 10. Romans 10. Romans 10, even though they do, they have a zeal for the Most High, but not according to the knowledge. You can start at verse 1 of Romans 10.
The book of Romans, chapter 10, verse 1.
Come on.
Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer go for Israel, Salakia. My heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel.
Come on.
Is that they might be saved.
That Salakia. Read that again.
My heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel.
For who?
For Israel.
Now, Paul here is praying for Israel. Read.
Is that they.
That who?
They.
Israel. Read.
Might be saved.
Come on.
For I bear them record.
Read.
That they have a zeal of God.
The Christian church, I would agree, Jakes have a zeal for the Most High God. They do have a zeal for the Most High. But this is the problem. Read.
But not according to knowledge.
Not according to knowledge. Read.
For they being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness.
Read.
Have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of God.
In order to submit yourself to the righteousness of God, you need to be in the school of the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Period. That's where you need to be. Right here under Commanding General Yohana. This don't supposed to be a buffet and you're supposed to come in and choose what you like. Choose what denomination you like. Choose what tradition and what laws you like. That's not what this is about. The scripture says this is one body. It's one body. All right. Let's get back to
Mark 7.
Mark 7. The Christian church definitely has a zeal for the Most High God. Christians have a zeal, but not according to knowledge. Read. Where you at? Mark
7 and 6.
Go ahead.
The book of Mark, chapter 7, verse 6.
Come on.
He answered and said unto them, well hath Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me.
The Most High Yahushua cut the hell out of them. He cut them all. That's a mean cut. That's a dagger. That's like a a dagger right there, right? Verse 7.
Verse 7. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men.
That's what they are doing. The Christian church today are doing that just as well. They are teaching the commandments of men. If you are saying anything that's lawful and it is not the law of God, that is the commandment of man. I don't care what it is. Period. If it comes from this earth, from man, from this nation, from any nation that is around about us to test us, guess what? That's a commandment of man. Read.
Verse 8. For laying aside the commandment of God.
That's what you do when you are focused primarily on the commandment of man. You're laying aside the commandment of the Most High Power. Remember, this is about washing hands. This is what he's talking about. Because this is a minor thing. This is a small thing, but it's a big thing because you're breaking a law. You're bringing a tradition of washing hands and making it a law, and it is not the law. You can't force a man to do something that is unlawful and make it law. You can't make anything the law of God. The commandments, the laws, the statutes, and the commandments is written. Lo, it comes in the volume of a book, right? So everything is in the book. And you can't add or take away from this book. So everything is in there. Right? Read.
For laying aside the commandment of God Ye hold the tradition of men.
Read.
As the washing of pots.
Just like washing pots and pans and bowls and silverware. Just like washing that. Read.
And cups. And many other such like things ye do.
Read.
Verse 9. And he said unto them, full well ye reject the commandment of God.
So look, you're rejecting the Most High God. You're rejecting God's law. When you do that and you make a tradition law, that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. You are rejecting the commandments of God. Read.
Full well ye reject the commandment of God, that ye may keep your own tradition.
That you may keep your own tradition. So you are actually transgressing God's law, because now you're bringing a tradition of man, and you making it the law of God. That's what you're doing. Now we're going to look at another thing that the Pharisees did. We're going to go to Romans 7:1. Here they go again. We're going to examine something else that they do, even right now to this day. Now, Salakia, real quick, I want to jump back to that real quick. Salakia, Now, what do Christians say that this chapter is about? What do they say this is about? In Matthew chapter 7. Go ahead.
In Matthew chapter 7, they're saying.
Salakia, Mark chapter 7.
Mark chapter 7. They're saying it's about you can eat what you want.
And why are they saying that? What is the precept in that verse? Salakia, in that chapter. You know where it's at?
I don't know what part, but I know.
It's right down. I think it's like verse 15. What is that?
Verse 15. There is nothing from without a man that entering into him can defile him.
So,
yeah,
read it.
I'm in the wrong one. You said Matthew?
Salakia. No, it's Mark.
It's in Mark as well.
Ain't it in Mark?
Yeah, well,
it's not what goes in the mouth, but what comes out of the mouth. Ain't that in there? I should have.
I'll read. I'll read that.
Go ahead.
There is nothing from without a man that entering into him can defile him, but the things which come out of him, those are they that defile the man.
So Christians use that and say they can eat anything. They say they can eat anything. What's the other precept for that? Isn't it one that's a little cleaner than that?
I'll find it for you right now.
Yeah, find that for me, because this one a little cleaner, and I want to get the one that's a little bit more easier for the Christians and the one that they use a whole lot, right? I think that's Matthew. Let me pull him up. Matthew 15. Is it Matthew 15?
Matthew 15 and 11.
There it is.
I'll get to it right now.
This is the one that they love to use for this precept right here. And it's the same thing. It's dealing with the washing of the hands. Just to be sure so that they'll know, right?
The book of Matthew, chapter 15, verse 11.
Salakia, read verse 2 so they'll know verse 1 and 2 that this is the same thing.
Why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders?
Come on.
For they wash not their hands when they eat bread.
So this is about washing the hands. Read.
But he answered and said unto them, who do ye also transgress? Salakia, why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition?
So now we know that this is the same context. This is the same thing. It's just you had Mark writing about it, and you got Matthew writing about it. When you shoot down to verse 11, Matthew lays it out like this. Read.
Not that which goeth into the mouth defileth a man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this defileth a man.
Oh, a Christian will say what? They'll say what they use this for, young man. Yeah.
For unclean foods.
So they this is their excuse to do what? Eat swine, eat crabs, eat shrimp, eat scavengers, eat the cockroaches of the sea. That's what they use this for. They say, oh, we can eat anything. You know what I ask them? Well, eat some shit then. Since you can eat anything, Salakia. Go eat a turd. Go get you a turd burger. Go ahead.
I saw something, I can't remember if it was a debate or on Clubhouse, but I believe it was Captain Desariac, and he pretty much asked, can you eat a person? And I believe the Christian might have said yes.
Yeah, you can eat a person. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, he did say that. He said you can eat a person.
People meat.
See what I mean? Christians are crazy. They are the most, I'm trying to tell you, them people there, boy, I tell you, they are the most dangerous. And they'll do that too. They'll put some salt and pepper on an arm, a leg, a thigh, a human thigh, and argue you down. Say some great words first, and then say times and laws has changed. Christians is crazy. All right, give me Romans 7. Now we're gonna look at something else that the Pharisees challenged our king with by the tradition of man. But before we get into it, I want Romans chapter 7 and verse 1.
The book of Romans, chapter 7, verse 1.
Read.
Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law.
Now listen, here in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, we know this law. So this would be one of those moments like Paul is saying, listen, I speak to them that know the law. So here, Isupk Delaware right now, we're speaking to those who know the law, right? Read.
How that the law hath dominion over a man, as long as he liveth.
So as long as the man live, there's a dominion over the man. There's a dominance over the man. Well, what is he talking about? Read.
For the woman which hath an husband.
A woman that has what?
A husband.
Come on.
Is bound by the law to her husband, so long as he liveth.
Why doesn't it say for a man which have a wife is bound by the law to her husband, Salakia, to his wife as long as he lived? It doesn't say that. Go ahead.
Because a man can have more than one wife.
He can have more than one. Uh-oh. The Christian church will lose their mind over something like that. They'll go ballistics over something like that. But that's not something that you have to do. That's not for everybody. All right? It's not for everybody. What are you about to say?
I was just about to agree with you because the Christian church will lose their mind, but some of those ushers and those deacons will be sleeping with every woman in the choir.
I was about to bring it up. Their hypocrisy. That's a part of the hypocrisy. Because they eliminate sexist marriage. They get rid of that. They get rid of that because times and laws has changed. And now if I don't go down to see Esau down at the judge's chamber, or go down to the church and have a ceremony and sign some papers, then I'm not bound to that woman. Listen, let me tell y'all something about that. Speaking on that, since you brought it up. When I was a Christian, I was a whoremonger. I was hitting them all, knocking them down. And the reason why is because I was not bound to the law. I wasn't thinking about no law. The Christian church had made me a hypocrite just like they were. I was born again as a hypocrite. I was born again as a bastard because I didn't have a real father, because I was following behind the traditions of men and I was knocking them down, not understanding that I was breaking the Most High's law. And I thank the Most High that he preserved me. And I thank the Most High that he preserved me long enough to bring me into the school of Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Because if he didn't, I would have died in that disgusting way. I would have died under that type of judgment, right? That's what I would have died at, because they were the ones that was teaching me. They were the ones that was like the Pharisees. They were the priests. They were the ones that was teaching me these things, and they was teaching me the traditions of men. But this scripture says, for a woman which has a husband is bound to her husband, bound by the law to her husband as long as he lived. So as long as he is alive, she's married to that man. Read.
But if the husband be dead.
So if that husband dies, right? Read.
She is loosed from the law.
Then she is loosed from that law of marriage to that husband. But as long as he's alive, you're an adulterer. You know how many adulterers and fornicators is in the Christian church? I guarantee you over half of the people there has been, women especially, has been married and remarried. And over half of the men has married women that was already married. And they claim that they followers of Yahweh Shai and they have a zeal of God. This is what the Christian church teach. Well, guess what? Rome taught the same thing. The Romans at this time taught the same type of doctrine. You can throw the woman away, go get another one. Throw the man away, go get another one. But the scripture says you're bound to that man as long as he lived. Read.
She is loosed from the law of her husband. Verse 3. So then, if while her husband liveth, she be married to another man.
Which is overwhelmingly, way over 50% in the Christian church. Way over 50% of the Christian church that women has remarried, and the husband is still alive. The husband is still alive. Read.
She shall be called an adulteress.
That's what the Most High gonna call her. That's what the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, that's what we call you. So you want to get mad because we call you an adulterer? Well, the scripture says you are. The scripture says that's what you would be called, an adulterer. Because your husband is still alive and you married to another. Read.
But if her husband be dead.
If her husband be dead, read.
She is free from that law.
Now, if the woman's husband, if she's a widow, now she's free. She's good. She can marry another. But the Christian church don't follow that. Go ahead, finish that out.
So that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man.
Though she be married to another man. So let's look at Matthew chapter 19. Let's look at the situation that took place with Yahweh Shai dealing with, once again, the Jews, the Pharisees, you know what I'm saying? The hypocrites, the Christian church, the liars, the hypocrites. They're such hypocrites. Matthew 19:1. Let's get it.
The book of Matthew, chapter 19, verse 1.
Read.
And it came to pass that when Yahweh Shai had finished these sayings, he departed from Galilee and came into the coast of Judea beyond Jordan.
Come on.
And great multitudes followed him, and he healed them there.
Now here come the hypocrites. Here come the hypocrites. Read.
The Pharisees also came unto him.
So here they come. And I get this all the time. The Christian church, they come to me all the time. They do this. Go ahead.
Tempting him.
Then what?
Tempting him.
So now they're tempting him. So we know this is not the Most High. We know they're not coming with the spirit of the Most High, because the spirit does not, the Most High tempts not. He don't tempt us. He tests us, but he don't tempt us. They're tempting Yahweh Shai. They're tempting our king. All right, read.
And saying unto him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause?
So look, if you go and you ask a Christian right now, they'll tell you, yeah. You ask them that question, can you divorce for anything? They'll say, absolutely. You have that right. You have that liberty in Christ. You have the freedom to divorce whenever you want, however you want, as many times as you want. As many times as you want. And look, that person will be they'll be the most righteous person in the room too. People will go and ask them questions about the scriptures. Oh, they'll be so wise. They'll be so smart to them. And guess what? You're speaking to an adulterer. You're speaking to someone that the Most High says, you've done many works in my name, but I never knew you, you workers of iniquity. That's what you'll get. Go ahead.
And he answered and said unto them, have ye not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh.
Now, I'm going to hold up for 1 second on this. Now, look, when it says in verse 4, right, it says, and he answered and he said unto them, have ye not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female? Why did he say that? What was going on during the Roman time where he had to check them with that first, male and female?
It was a lot of homosexuality going on.
What's going on today?
A lot of homosexuality going on.
And where is it? Is it going down in the Christian church?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hypocrites. We went down Germantown and we were going down doing some work. We was handing out some flyers. We was in Philly. I seen a whole church of transgenders. I seen this transgender come out the church with a dress on and a big, I mean, he had a glorious beard. Salakia. He had that thing laid out, but he had on a blue dress. A damn blue dress. Go ahead.
You sure it wasn't purple?
You know what? As I walked up on it, it did look a little purplish. It did look a little purplish. But the point is, they'll go in there and they'll say all these words, but yet they'll be gay. It'll be a man with a man and a woman with a woman. Hypocrites, hypocrisy. You have a zeal of the Most High, but not according to knowledge. Go ahead. What else you got?
Verse 5. And said, for this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh.
Let me tell you something. If you got a red and she always calling her father and her mother, and they're the ones that's giving all the advice, and their rules and their laws is ruling your home, that woman has not subscribed to this law. She has not fully subscribed to these scriptures. It says you leave your mother and your father and you cleave onto your husband or your wife, and they become one flesh. What does one flesh mean? Anybody know? One flesh? Go ahead.
One family.
That exactly, one family. Look, can you add to the family? That's why it's one family. Do you have a precept to show that this means family? Give me the precept to show that this means family.
Genesis 29:14.
That's a good one, but I need one a little bit more cleaner for a Christian. That's gonna throw them way off. They're gonna say, see, that means they won one people. They won individual. Romans 9. You can just get right to it. Romans 9:3. Let's get it.
The book of Romans, chapter 9, verse 3.
Read.
For I could wish that myself were accursed from Christ for my brethren.
For my brethren.
My kinsmen.
My kinsmen. That means like, this is all family. My brethren, my kinsmen. Read.
According to the flesh.
According to what?
To the flesh.
That means family. That's your precept for family. One flesh means family. Like when I'm talking to the Christians about this, that one precept right there in Matthew 19, where it talks about being one flesh, they act like that's it. It's just the husband and the wife. But if you have kids, aren't you adding to the family? Aren't you adding to that flesh? If you get another rib, aren't you adding to that flesh? That's why it's family. A man can have more than one wife. I got more than one. And guess what? They're one family. It's one family. All right? Verse 6.
Salaki, let me get right back
Matthew
there.
19 and 6.
The book of Matthew, chapter 19 and verse 6. Wherefore they are no more twain.
So there are no more two. Remember, the woman was with her father. She was with her family. So they were two families. But once they came together, they become what?
One family.
But
one flesh.
Read.
What therefore God hath joined together, let no man put asunder.
So Yahweh Shah straight told him, listen, what the Most High brought together, don't let no man separate that. So now, remember, they tempted him. So now they like, oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, you can't divorce? You can't separate? They come back with this. Read.
They say unto him, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and to put her away?
So after Yahweh Shah said there's no separation, they came back and said, well, yeah. Well, why did Moses then do it? Why did Moses then command to give a written of divorce and to put away their wives? Right? Verse 19. I mean, Salakia, verse 8.
Verse 8. He saith unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffered you to put away your wives.
Understand what he's saying. He said unto them, he said, now he's answering their question. He already answered their question at first. Can you put away a woman for any cause? Yahweh Shah saying no. That was his answer. You can't. And he goes on and says, what the Most High brought together, don't let no one separate that. But then they said, well, what about Moses then? Moses gave a letter of divorce. Yahweh Shah said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, suffer you to put away your wives. But from the beginning, it was not so. So this was something that came because of your heart, because you couldn't deal with them. Listen, I'll tell you right now in a heartbeat, if I could put them away for any cause, I'm putting them out. I'm shipping them up out of here. But I can't. You cannot divorce for any cause. Now they can. And guess what? A Christian will divorce you and go on and know this rule, know this law, and remarry and everything under the traditions of man, under the commandments of man. It wouldn't care. Wouldn't give a flying crap about it and go to church. Yeah, all that. The holy thing and the tongues and the falling out and the crying and all of that. And guess what? They'll know this precept. They'll know that you can't put away a woman or a man. You cannot. The woman will know that she's bound to the man as long as she lives. But she believes that she's so special that she can bypass this. Right? She'll buy right past this all day long. Verse 9.
Verse 9. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication.
Except it be for what?
For fornication.
Now that were issue. Now I spoke about this before. What is fornication? Hold on, young man. What's fornication? What's fornication?
Fornication is sleeping, indulging in other gods.
Dealing with marriage.
That
is indulgent. That's still the same thing, because that's another God you listening to, because you ain't listening to this law. This the God of these laws, these statutes, and this commandment. But I want you to be a little bit more cleaner on the subject.
Fornication is sleeping with another married woman.
Sleeping with a married woman. Go ahead.
And I could be wrong. I did believe I took down the notes from one of the lessons, and it was fornication is unlawful sex. If you want to cover it all,
right? If you want to cover it, right? Is unlawful sex. So fornication would be if exactly what this is saying. Read that again and take it from the top. We're going to flow right through it down to verse 10.
And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery.
Go ahead.
And whoso marrieth her, which is put away, doth commit adultery.
So it's just all adultery. The church is just full of filthy, dirty people. Adulterers, adulteries. That's all they are. And they can speak some real great words, and they got a zeal for God and all of that. But guess what? You're an adulterer. You're an adulterer. You're a fornicator. It's unlawful sexual act. All right? Read.
Verse 10. His disciples say unto him, if the case of the man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry. But he said unto them, all men cannot receive this same.
All men cannot receive this same. Salakia, hold on.
Save they.
No, that's the wives.
Salakia.
All men cannot receive this same. And that's true. They can't. All men cannot receive this saying. Now look, we're gonna look at how the Pharisees judged. All right. There's a chapter in the book of Romans. And it talks about the Pharisees. It talks about how it really talking about the leadership. It's Romans 2. Get that. We can get that. Romans 2. Hold on. I'm gonna pull it up here. Because a lot of people try to make Romans 2 about everybody. Hold on. We're going to start at Romans chapter 2 and verse 1. Hold on. Let me see if all right. Romans chapter 2 and verse 1. All right. Now listen, remember, the Pharisees were the judges. They judged. They sat in Moses' seat. The Christian church, they do the same thing. They claim to sit in Moses' seat. They claim to sit in the seat of the high priest. They claim the brotherhood. They claim the priesthood. All right. So, and they judge. Let's see how they judged here in Romans chapter 2. All right. You got it? Let's get it.
The book of Romans, chapter 2, verse 1.
Read.
Therefore, thou art inexcusable, O man.
Inexcusable. Isn't that inexcusable?
Let me reread that. Salaki.
Inexcusable.
Therefore, thou art inexcusable, O man.
So you're inexcusable, old man. Now, a lot of Christians like to relate this to the whole planet. They think this is talking about everybody. But remember, we're talking about those that sit in Moses' seat. We're talking about those that judge, right? Right? Read.
Whosoever thou art that judgest, for wherein thou judgest another, thou commandest thyself, for thou that judgest doest the same thing.
So you judge, but you do this, the things that you say that you judging against, you're doing it. This is the Christian church. That's what the Pharisees did. The Christian church do the same thing, the same mirror, the same identity, right? Verse 2.
Verse 2. But we are sure that the judgment of God Salaki is according to truth.
Come on.
Against them which commit such things.
So the Most High will judge those Christians. And we know that his judgment is true. All right. Read.
Verse 3. And thinkest thou this, O man,
come on,
that judgest them which do such things,
come on,
and doest the same,
read,
that thou shalt escape the judgment of God?
This is what they're thinking. I'm serious. This is what they think. Christians think that they're special, and they think that they're going to get past that. Let me tell y'all something. Moses didn't get into the promised land. Why? For one action. The Most High judged him for that action and said, you ain't getting in. I'll let you see it, but you ain't getting in the promised land. Christians think they're more special than Moses. They believe that they can break the law and they can bring in the tradition of man all day. They can celebrate Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving. They can do all of the holidays of a tradition of men. They believe they can do all of those things, and then they'll say, well, the Lord knows my heart. So I'm fine. The Lord knows me. The Lord knows my heart. But you will not escape the judgment of the Most High. Verse 3.
Verse 3. And thinkest thou this, O man, that judgest them which do such things, and doest the same, that thou shalt escape the judgment of God? Or despisest thou the riches of his goodness, and forbearance, and long suffering? So a lot of Christians read that verse 4 again. They get a misunderstanding of this verse right here. This is where it all falls apart, because they live in life and they having fun and they really feeling good about themselves, not understanding that this is what's going on. Verse 4. Or despisest thou the riches of his goodness? His good, that's the Most High's goodness. He's allowing you to live. He could have killed you and took your life right in your sin. I could have died right as a hypocrite, right in my sin, not understanding that this is the goodness of the Most High God. Go ahead. And forbearance and long suffering. Not understanding that it's his long suffering. That's his long suffering. He's long suffering for me. But a Christian won't understand that. They'll think that long suffering is a blessing, and they keep on doing and doing and doing and doing. But that's the long suffering of the Most High. Read. Not knowing that the goodness of God leadeth thee to repentance. So he's keeping you around. He kept me around. He kept all of us in this room around so that we can repent one day. That's what he kept us around for. Go ahead. But after thy hardness and impotent heart, treasurest up unto thyself wrath against the day of wrath and revelation of the righteous judgment of God. Read verse 6. Verse 6. Who will render to every man according to his deeds. So when he says render to every man according to his deeds, right? Is he talking about every man on the earth? Is he talking about everybody in this context?
No.
Who is he talking about here?
The Israelites.
The Israelites. There's two groups of Israelites he's speaking to. Who are these two groups?
Jacob and Israel.
La'ah.
The Sadducees and the Pharisees.
La'ah. The two groups that he's talking about here is the circumcision and the uncircumcision. He's talking about Israel, but he's talking about those that were keeping the law and those that wasn't keeping the law. Those that was keeping the law, quote unquote, let me rephrase that, because they really wasn't keeping the law. All right. But they were attempting to, but they failed. So I want to be very clear on that. He's speaking about the Jews, which is the circumcision, and the uncircumcision. Who would be the uncircumcision?
The Gentiles.
The Gentiles. So he's talking to, those are the two groups that he's speaking about. So when he says, who will render to every man according to his deeds, you about to see what I mean. Read.
Verse 7. To them who by patient continuance and well-doing seek for glory and honor and immortality, eternal life.
Come on.
But unto them that are contentious and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, indignation, and wrath.
Read.
Tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that doeth evil, of the Jew first, and also the Gentile. So now that's the two groups right there. But they're all one group because they're all Israelites. So he says to the Jew first and also the Gentile, right?
Why did he say to the Jew first?
Because the Jews, they were the ones keeping the law.
You got anything you want to add on that? All right. No, that's not why I would say he said to the Jews first, to the Jew first. The reason why he said to the Jew first, because it was necessary to go to the Jew first. You familiar with that? It's a precept for that. You have to know this precept because this will set a Christian straight. When a Christian say to the Jew first and then the Gentile, they'll be saying to the Jew first, which is the 12 tribes, and then the Gentiles, everybody else. But if you can pour as it is written, then you'll understand and they'll get the picture that it had to go to the Jew first. So that would be in Salakia. I tell you what. Why don't we do this? Go to, and we're going to come back to that slide. We're going to come back there. All right, hold on. I want you to go to Acts chapter 13 and verse 46.
The book of Acts, chapter 13, verse 46. Then Paul and Barnabas waxed bold and said, it was necessary.
It was what?
Salakia.
It was what?
It was necessary.
So he's saying it was necessary. Read.
That the word of God should first have been spoken to you.
Who was he talking to? He was talking to the Jews. He was talking to the circumcision. Listen to what I'm saying, though, because this one is a big one. He says it was necessary, meaning it had to happen. Just like that. It had to be preached to you first. Read.
That the word of God should have been spoken to you first.
Come on.
But seeing ye put it from you, and judge yourselves unworthy of everlasting life.
Come on.
Lo, we turn to the Gentiles.
So he turned to the Gentiles. So Paul in his ministry, he was speaking to the Jews first because it was necessary to go to the Jews first. Then he had to turn to the Gentiles. Precept, Zechariah 12 and 7. Put that in your precept book. It's a Jew first, Gentile killer. Can't get around it.
The book of Zechariah, chapter 12, verse 7.
Come on.
The Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first.
Shall save the tents of who?
The tents of Judah first.
In the New Testament, Judah is in the New Testament called what? What word is they use for Judah in the New Testament?
Jew.
Jew. So he said, the Lord shall save the tent of Judah, of the Jews first. This is why Paul said it was necessary. It had to happen. Why? Because it was written. It was prophesied that salvation go to the Jew first. Read.
That the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah.
Now, there it is. That's the reason why. That's the reason why. All right. We're going to finish that off. I got more on that, but I want to get to this law piece. So do me a favor. We're going to go ahead and you're going to go back to, hold on, let me pull it. That Romans, what was that? Romans. You stopped at Romans 10. I want you to read Romans 10 and Romans 11.
Romans 10 and 11.
Romans chapter 2, verse 10 and 11.
The book of Romans, chapter 2, verse 10. But glory, honor, and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Jew first, and also to the Gentiles.
So you see the two groups, right? Y'all see it? Y'all see it? Verse 11.
Verse 11. For there is no respect of persons.
This is the reason why it's necessary for him to say there's no respect of persons with God. Well, what is he talking about? Does the Most High have respect of, look, it says person, but then when he look up on Israel, where's that precept at?
Give me 1 second, I have it.
So he's saying, for there's no respect of persons with God, because the Jews felt like they were higher than those that that wasn't circumcised on the 8th day, that wasn't still under the covenant. So they felt like that they were special and they were better, right? But the purpose of Yahweh Shah was to bring everybody back in together. That's why he says there's no respect of person, right? And then the reason why he can say this is because the Most High said this. Read.
The precept?
Precept.
Exodus 2. The book of Exodus, chapter 2, verse 25.
Come on.
And God looked upon the children of Israel.
Looked upon the children of Israel. Read.
And God had respect unto them.
So the Most High had respect unto the children of Israel. That's why he cannot have what?
Respect of person.
That's why he can't have respect of person. But he can have respect unto Israel. He can have Israel above all nations on the earth. You know why? Because it's lawful. He looked up upon Israel and had respect unto them. That's what he had. So there's no difference between the Pharisee and the Christian church. Now I'm going to show you one more. Go to Acts chapter 21. Acts chapter 21. Acts chapter 21 lays the rest. Now I have a plethora of scriptures to show that Paul taught the law, right? But we're going to get right to it. I want you to start at Acts 21 and 17. Now look, we're going to compare the Christian church to this. We're going to line them up. We're going to line up their hypocrisy and what they be saying and what they be teaching and how they can't understand the scriptures and thinking this very thing. Matter of fact, we're going to go right to it. Go down to verse 21 and 21. This is what the Christian church believed, and this is what the Pharisees and the Jews were believing. Read. This is about Paul. Matter of fact, Salakia. Go ahead, go up to verse, start at 17. My bad. I'm trying to get y'all out of here.
The book of Acts, chapter 21, verse 17.
Come on.
And when we were come to Jerusalem, the brethren received us gladly.
What was going on here? We went over this many a times. You should know what was going on here. This was that Paul was going to, go ahead.
His journey to Jerusalem.
He was in Jerusalem, but what was going on? Why was he in Jerusalem? Who sent Paul and them? Who sent Paul out? Go ahead. James. James was the elder. James. Look, it's very important that y'all study that because Christians need to understand that this wasn't a solo thing. This wasn't a Protestant movement. Paul was under orders. Peter was under orders. Everybody had to answer to James. So here, this is Paul answering to James about the work that he put in. And James is going to talk about what he heard from the Pharisees, the Jews, just like the Christian church, because the Christian church heard the same thing. And if you talk to them today, they believe the same thing. So this is Paul giving a laid out detail of what he did and who he taught and what he taught. what he said. All right, read.
The book of Acts, chapter 21 and verse 17.
Come on.
And when we were come to Jerusalem, the brethren received us gladly.
Come on.
And the day following, Paul went into with us, and the day following, Paul went in with us unto James.
And to who?
Unto James.
So they went to James. Go ahead.
And all the elders were present.
All the elders was present. So James was there, and all the elders was present. They want to know what the hell is going on, Paul. We hearing some things. Go ahead.
And when he had saluted them, he declared particularly what things God had wrought among the Gentiles by his ministry.
So Paul is going to tell exactly what he did among the Gentiles. All right. So we're going to get some clarity. We're going to see if the Pharisees and the Jews was on point by saying that Paul was teaching something contrary to what the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge is saying he was teaching. We say that Paul was teaching the law. Christians and the Pharisees and the Jews, they had a whole nother belief system.
Right.
They heard something different. They had a different spirit. All right, read.
And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord.
Come on.
And said unto him.
So after they heard Paul say what he said, they glorified the Most High. Read.
Thou seest, brother.
Y'all see, brothers? Come on.
How many thousands of Jews there are which believe.
So now we have an issue because the Christian church saying that Paul was teaching everybody. But after they heard what Paul had to say about who he was teaching, they would glorify the Lord. And they said, you read it again.
Thou seest, brother.
Come on.
How many thousands of Jews there are which believe.
Come on.
And they are all zealous of the law.
And they all are zealous of the law. So that gives you an indication that, once again, the Christian church is wrong. Paul was teaching the law. Right? Go ahead.
And they are informed of thee.
This is what we heard. And this is what we hear today. If you go to a Christian church, you're going to hear exactly this. So it's the same spirit. It's the same spirit as the Pharisees. It's nothing different. It's the same spirit as the Jews. It's the same spirit that was against God then. It's the same spirit that's against God now. Read.
And they are all zealous of the law, and they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs. What is it therefore?
So that he's saying, listen, this is what we're hearing. This is what we heard. We heard that you teaching again that you're not teaching the law. You're teaching against the laws, the statutes, the commandments. You're teaching against Moses. So now James is going to give a solution to this matter. Read.
The multitudes must needs come together.
So when the people come together, read.
For they will hear that thou art come.
They're going to hear that you hear. And remember, they heard the same thing. They believe the same thing, but you just let us know exactly what you did. And it was the opposite of that. You was teaching the Jews and you was teaching the law. Read.
Do therefore this.
Come on.
That we say to thee.
Come on.
We have 4 men which have a vow on them. Them take and purify them thyself with them.
Read.
And be at charges with them.
Come on.
That they may shave their heads.
That they may what?
Shave their heads.
So they're following a law right here. Go ahead.
And all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing.
They are nothing. That means they are not true. Nothing that they heard is not true. That means the Christian church too. The hypocrites, the liars, the rapists, the murderers, the adulterers, the fornicators. The Christian church is every foul, every unclean spirit on earth. We letting you know that what you heard is not true. Go ahead.
Wherefore they were affirmed concerning thee are nothing.
Are nothing. Come on.
But thou Salakia, but that thyself also walkest orderly and keepest.
And do what?
And keepest.
Come on.
The law.
And keep the law. That lays the rest that Paul didn't teach the law. Paul taught the law. Don't let nobody tell you nothing different. That spirit of hypocrisy, saying one thing, doing another, teaching the people something contrary to the Most High's word, no. In the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge under Commanding General Yohana, we do not teach that. We teach the Bible. We teach what Paul taught. We teach what Yahweh Shah sent him to teach. We teach what Yahweh Shah taught. We do not allow the traditions of the elders to be the commandments of the Most High power. Any questions? Any questions?
Can I just get one?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I did want to point this out to one of my brothers in the world, where James, other than this verse, where James kind of gives an order to Paul to kind of show there is a hierarchy and a men above you.
Right.
Is there any like particular precept that you would point somebody to for that?
Okay, what I would point people to is the fact that what you would do is you would see that James sent, hold on, in Acts 15 again. So you see right there that Paul reported to James, right? If you go to Acts chapter 15, you'll see it again. And you start at verse 7. But if you was to go down to verse okay, if you was to start, this is the council, right? And if you was to go down to verse, go to verse you can start at verse 15.
The book of Acts, chapter 15, verse 15.
Come on.
And to this agree the words of the prophets.
All right, hold on. Yeah, go ahead.
As it is written, after this I will return and will build again.
Go up to verse 13. Actually, 12. Salakia. I'm trying to get the piece that they're reporting to James again. Go ahead.
Then all, Salakia, the book of Acts, chapter 15, verse 12. Then all the multitude kept silence and gave audience to Barnabas and Paul, declaring what miracles and wonders God had wrought among the Gentiles by them. Verse 13. And after they had held their peace, James answered, saying, Men and brethren.
So now James is standing up and he's going to tell them again. Read.
Hearken unto me.
Come on.
Simon hath declared how God at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name.
Come on.
And to this agree the words of the prophets as it is written. After this I will return and will build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down. And I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up, that the residue of men might seek after the Lord, and all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called, saith the Lord.
So you see who's saying that? It's James. And when you go back and you start up with Barnabas, right? James and the elders is the ones that sent Barnabas to get Paul. All right. He sent James. They sent James was always in Jerusalem. That's where the relief was sent. Everything. It was in Jerusalem. They answered to Jerusalem. Until the fall of Jerusalem. That's where they reside. That's where everybody was at. All right. All right. Any other questions? Any other questions? All right, we're gonna pass the. You got a question? All right, I'm gonna pass the class over to priest and officer call. Cause I can't select yet. Hold on. Pick it up. Right there.
All right, this is ISUPK security announcements, new rules for new brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to learn and shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, they are to seek counsel from the heads. Next is tithes, which is a commandment. You can find that in Numbers 18 and 21, Malachi 3, 8 through 10. Ma'ashara, which means tenth in Hebrew, which is 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. There's also a priest fund, which is a free will offering. This is not mandatory, but if you would like to donate, even a bottle would be nice and accepted. Whatever amount you would like is welcome. Coming holy convocations would be the next holy day would be the Feast of the Blowing of the Trumpets. That would be Friday, September 15th. You can find that in Leviticus chapter 23, verses 24 to 25. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black boots, all black shirts, headbands, pants, and scarf. With that being said, a mijim, which means to stand. A mijim, Shabbat. A mijim, Barak.
Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shabbat
Yajmatah. Sar, which means turn. We're going to turn and give the sisters a courtesy salute.
Sisters stand.
Sisters, you can stand. And you can put your hands like this. Amajim Shabbat. Amajim Barak.
Yahweh Shemar Abdam Hashem Yahweh Shah.
Amajim.
Yahya Matah.
Yahya Matah. Class dismissed.
Okay. So